Well, hiya folks. Took my twin fuselage, cheap little foamy conversion, out for another test flight. And it's flown rather well really since that disastrous start where it smashed itself to bits until I added differential thrust to it. I'll explain later why there's only one prop, but it flies really well, no problems at all with it. And the objective this time, apart from chucking a few really tight loops, was to see if it would roll. Somebody said the other day when they saw me flying it'd roll well. I thought, yeah, let's give it a go next time. As it happens, the flight ended before I got a chance to try any rolls, after what could have been a very catastrophic event. And I'll show you after the flight just what went wrong, which was the first for me in 10 or 15 years of flying radio controlled planes. Anyway, here's the flight and some onboard footage from my little keychain camera. Let's go. Well, here we are again folks, bit of a grey day, a little bit gusty, only a couple of dog walkers and one solitary radio controlled plane flyer who's got a lovely glider up there. But anyway, I'm here with my good old twin fuselage Lidl cheap foamy conversion. If you remember the maiden, it was a disaster till I sorted out differential thrust. It's flying okay, but I'm going to give it another blast today and hopefully catch some onboard aerial footage from this little keychain cam. So wish me luck. And she's up, and it's such a lovely flyer. That's actually hands-free, look at that. I was tending to go left a little bit. Yeah, needs a bit of left trim. Whoa, it's getting gustier, getting windier. But that flies so well. Probably one of my best little designs, and if you've not seen my channel, there are 15 of the big littles there, from singles to twins to biplanes, even EDF. But this is such a delight to fly. Quite windy. I could almost stop it there in that wind. Look at that. Almost stationary. Get up there in that cloud. Yeah, I think I'm on the edge. It looks like I'm on the edge of that cloud. I don't know what the video is going to be like. Yeah, you can see actually I hit the lift band there, that's why it all went a bit weird there, because I actually hit the lift band behind that tree, those trees. I'm going to do a roll here. I'll do a roll where you can see it. You see my lovely little LED lights on it as well. No, that's a loop. We'll do a loop here. Wow, I think the battery just went. I've got a feeling that that battery just died with my power flying. It's an 800 3S, but of course it has got two BR 1806s on the nose. And power costs amps. Yeah. Completely dead. Completely, I tell you what. That is completely dead. I said before folks, this is a hobby where you never stop learning. there is absolutely nothing there now on that battery. So I've got a feeling I've either blown a speed controller or killed the battery totally, which is very unusual. So I'm just going to get my battery checker out and see what volts we've got. Don't go away. Well, I think I can see immediately what the problem is. If you saw my last video about fixing my X16 drone that I bought on eBay that just GPS wouldn't work on it, I always said look for the obvious rather than go searching for a complicated problem. Anyway, look what's happened here, folks. I mentioned the two BR1806s, the current draw from that, plus what's happened is, I think because it was pinched under the cover, either the poor solder connections have failed, or the current was so much that the wires melted, shorted the battery, and that was instant power loss. Good job it didn't happen when it was really high there. Anyway, as I said before, folks, every day is a learning day in this. So that's where the battery lives on my twin fuselage, lovely flying machine, cheap foamy conversion of Lidl gliders. Lives under there, but of course power is distributed from that central 800 3S to speed controllers in each side. So basically my Y lead and this little connection, which was under there, got extremely hot, melted, and because it was being pinched under there, decided it was having no more and shorted out. You can see there that I'd actually soldered on that JST and it obviously wasn't up to the job, or perhaps when I stripped it back I didn't actually leave enough meat on the wire where I soldered it, but something was definitely wrong for it to actually end up melting the wire. And as you can see here, it was that hot that it actually burnt a hole through this. But it was obviously being pinched under there too, so the fact it was being pinched together obviously didn't help. Going to cut some ventilation holes in this next time and make very sure that I'm careful about how I route the wires, because you can see here on my Y lead, no problem at all, but you can also see that that is a fairly decent gauge of wire there compared to some of these little skinny JSTs that you buy online. So there is definitely a lesson there. I was dead lucky that I wasn't actually at sort of 1,000 feet there flying around underneath the clouds, because it would have just spiraled down and I doubt if I'd have seen it again. It would have ended up in the trees somewhere with no control whatsoever, because total power loss means no control of any flight control surfaces. Anyway, there's a lesson there. Don't buy very cheap light gauge JSTs, but I have flown this before and I've never had a problem with it, so I think perhaps this time I just pushed it a little bit too much, full throttle, 2 motors, fair old bit of current. I should have been more careful. So big lesson there, one for you to learn and a lesson learned by me. Right, well, I'm testing, as you can see. Interesting discovery. The wires are getting hot. Probably they've survived mostly because you rarely ever need this at full power. But the wires are getting hot. Even my Y lead there is getting hot, feeding the 2 speed controllers. LiPo's getting very warm. But the other discovery is the motors are actually getting hot. I think the answer is, Bob, put smaller props on this. Well, certainly there's so much power there that it will actually climb vertically. I think I could probably fly it on a 2S or put smaller props on if I'm going to use a 3S. Anyway, cutting a long story shorter, so next I tried it with a 2S 1000 and I discovered that these leads were still getting hot and the motors were getting hot. So then I figured, well, maybe these props are just too big. So went on to Banggood's website, BR1806. I'll put a little image up there. Good thing about Banggood, when they advertise motors, they usually put this little chart there which tells you what current draw you can expect and what kind of recommended props it should be. And I've been using 5045s, while the recommended prop is 5030. And you can see here quite a difference in blade size for a start, but also what a huge difference in pitch. So basically I've been putting too much load on those motors. So I've ordered a couple of 5030s. Hopefully that'll sort the problem. And with a bit of luck, maybe I'll still be able to use a 3S with it. Strange thing is, I have used quite a lot of these BR1806s on my Lidl conversions, including this Lidl Spitfire. Never had a problem at all with overheating or any wires frazzling. But bear in mind, when you're running two motors, you've got double the current, double the amps. So that didn't help. And I probably rarely ever fly them full chat, more likely just half chat. So just goes to show a bit of a power blast, a couple of motors and a poor connection, and you can frazzle a wire. And as I said earlier, frazzling a wire means a total loss of power, which means you've got no ailerons or elevators or anything to actually help you steer it down in a glide where you want it to land. But that's all for now. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Certainly been another lesson learned for me. If you have enjoyed the vid, please give it a like, helps my algorithms. And why not check out some of the other stuff on my channel? I did mention before, 15 of these big little conversions and 6 of the small ones now as well. But that's all for now. Hopefully you'll see me flying this again, and maybe I will manage a roll next time. But I'll stop waffling on and say bye for now. Hopefully catch you all later.